Good afternoon, Sergeant Major Retired Hollis, colleagues and guests. I'm Master Sergeant Karen Williams, and this afternoon I'm going to give you the unclassified informational briefing on Stand 12 from an operational perspective, and just bring the whole 12 stands home, and we'll lock out this afternoon. First, I'll orient you to the location, adding on to what my colleague, Master Sergeant Carter, gave you a little earlier from a tactical perspective. Also, I'll give you an analysis, what makes it applicable to the NCO Corps. We'll open the floor for questions, and then I'll do a conclusion and wrap up to the whole event today. Now, as you know, through all these stages, and because we're here particularly to the south of us is the border of Mexico. VIA's forces were over on the south side of the border, and at this time here at the pursuit and in what's considered the final expedition, there were concurrent skirmishes taking place throughout the location. We can look at it today as what we call a mobile defense. If you look at the overall terrain, for many of you who have served overseas in Afghanistan and Iraq, the terrain, the environment, the layout of the land is all similar to your experience there and the tactics that you would use in those environments. Pancho Villa and his forces, as was mentioned earlier, their strength was as strong as 10,000, and at this point when they got here, they were as small as 1,000. At this particular stand, they suffered a lot of casualties. There are records, and you know records are incomplete here and there, but there are records that says actually here 600 casualties occurred in that force. So let me go back up to the top. From an operational perspective, and you heard in all stands, operations has critical elements. We can look at medical needs, logistics, mechanics, billeting for both officers and NCOs, and family concern. Something very big in the military these days is family support, that family network and taking care of soldiers, whether we take them on the front or we leave them in the rear. Civil considerations is critical in all that we do these days. Look at this town of Columbus, New Mexico. When our forces were here at Camp Furlong and adjacent locations, it brought economic boom to this town. The forces were here until 1924, approximately 10 years. You know, and as I go through the three operational scenarios, you'll see where I'll bring this in. The first scenario, I'll talk about Pancho Villa himself and his retreat. Things he was looking at, he had some objectives, and it was brought up earlier. He needed resupply. He was short on everything. He had laid his money out, and you heard it in stands 8, 9, and 10 to Sam Revell. Never got those supplies. His other concern was defeating our forces, minimizing that force and friction of defense against his troops so he can come on up over on the U.S. side of the border. He wasn't successful there either. He wanted to engage the United States in coming over that border because, again, as it was brought up, his buddy Carranza and him had some political and diplomatical discord, and the United States sided with Carranza, and he figured, hey, let me see if I can get him engaged over the border. And as it was told to you earlier, the War Department and Wilson's rules did not allow us to cross that border. Now, in talking on a second scenario